Hey everyone, welcome back. This week was actually pretty similar to last week. There was nothing brand new, it was more about fleshing out things that were already in the game, just to make sure that they were working as you would expect them to when you started playing. A lot of the time was spent around tools. I kept running into these situations where I'd break a flint tool and the game would technically let me recover, but it didn't feel right. Either I was getting soft locked and didn't have the materials to get going again, or the opposite, it was being way too forgiving. What I decided on in the end was to just make the crude tools a fallback. So if a flint tool breaks, you're not dead in the water. The crude version kicks in as a backup line. It's slower, it's worse, but you can keep going. That led straight into soft locking issues around the workbench. I had cases where one upgrade offer was basically blocking everything else, or it would just do weird things like you had to switch to the torch just to get the right option to show up. It wasn't broken, it just was a bit messy. And once I tightened up the order the world offers things to you in, a lot of the friction just disappeared. That's where the context offers and the player thoughts naturally fell into place. Instead of menus or prompts, the world just suggests one thing at a time. Fix this, sharpen that, or just you're missing something here, and then it shuts up. No spam, no clutter. It feels less like managing systems and more like the environment is quietly nudging you rather than, oh, do this. After all of that interaction stuff was solid, I moved on to time. I was playtesting a bit and the player kept just passing out, like constantly. And every time it happened, I'd glance up at the debug timer and go, oh yeah, it was midnight. That kept happening over and over and over. And that was the tell. The system itself was fine, but the player had no real sense of why it was happening, unless I was cheating and looking at my debug clock that I set up on the UI just as a placeholder, so I knew that things were working. And the reason I don't want this traditional kind of clock system is because one of the rules I set early on with Evergreen was minimal UI. A clock just wouldn't fit in anyway. It was just too civilized in a world where you're cooking on a flat stone and tying things together with twine. So instead of telling the player the exact time, I leaned into cues. The light shifts, the colour temperature changes, the world just gets heavier as the day goes on. The big one is the shadows. You should be able to read the time by reading the shadows. Short and tight, it's about midday. Long and stretched over to the left, it's the morning time. Long and stretched to the right, it's evening. You're able to tell the intent now, but it does need a good polish. Again, this week, it doesn't seem like much, but we did rip out the whole time system. We ripped out the whole tool system. The new architecture is much more scalable, much more clean, and it feels like we can actually go in, play a loop, and really feel like what it will be like to play the demo, and then ultimately the finished, polished game. And that's it for this week. If you'd like to follow along with this journey, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next devlog. Thank you for watching.